An 80-year-old woman just vomited the water she drank. Her husband, standing beside her, slapped her hard across the face. They were all retired music teachers. Their later years were peaceful and warm. But one morning, Anne suddenly fell into a daze. Although she recovered a few minutes later, her strange behavior left her husband feeling uneasy. A hospital visit confirmed it was a stroke. After surgery, Anne's right side was paralyzed. From then on, she was bound to a wheelchair. Finally, when she was discharged and came home, the first thing Anne said to her husband was a plea: never send her back to the hospital. Out of love and respect for his wife, George made her a promise. From that day on, he went from being a husband to a full-time caregiver. He took care of her meticulously, without ever uttering a single complaint. One day, when he came home from attending a funeral, he was greeted by a heartbreaking scene. Anne was collapsed on the floor next to an open window. It turned out that during this time, Anne had been filled with inner pain. She desperately wanted to hold on to her last bit of dignity. To cheer her up, George invited Anne's students over to visit, and even got her the latest model of a wheelchair. Anne was as happy as a 3-year-old child, so George was filled with hope again and encouraged her to try rehabilitation exercises. But in the face of illness, all their efforts seemed so powerless. One morning, Anne had an accident in bed. When George discovered it, she bit her lip hard, feeling overwhelming shame and humiliation. Anne's ability to care for herself quickly deteriorated. George, feeling overwhelmed, had to hire help. But finding the right caregiver became a headache. Watching a new caregiver handle Anne roughly, yanking her head painfully, and forcing a mirror in front of her face, without a shred of empathy, George's heart ached. He decided to fire the caregiver and even generously paid double. After that, Anne's condition rapidly worsened. She lost her ability to speak and started refusing to eat. No matter how gently George tried to persuade her, she stubbornly refused to open her mouth. In the process, George began to lose his patience. To prevent Anne from dying of thirst, he forced water into her mouth. But Anne didn't swallow. Instead, she spit it all out. At that moment, both of them were stunned. How could George do this to the woman he loved most? He began to regret it deeply. Yet Anne swallowed the water afterward, her face showing no anger, only understanding and forgiveness for her husband. That night, Anne miraculously became clear-headed. She tried hard to recall the moment when they first met. She gently placed her hand on George's hand. In that moment, they were back in their happy past. Back when she often played the piano in the living room, and in George's eyes, she was breathtakingly beautiful, but reality was cruel. The next morning, Anne was wailing in pain. George hurried over, gently comforting her. To ease Anne's suffering, he told her a childhood story, a heartbreaking one he had never shared. He recalled being hospitalized with a high fever as a child, isolated in a hospital room, with his mother helplessly waving to him through a window. Gradually, Anne calmed down, her cries fading away. Seeing her drift off to sleep, George slowly picked up a pillow and pressed it down. In the end, George took his wife's life with his own hands. Was it betrayal or mercy? The film leaves that question unanswered. It was only a few weeks later when the police broke down the door and found Anne lying gracefully in bed, surrounded by beautiful flowers.